Today we're going hard on you guys. I don't know if I'll be stoned after this, but anyway, we're going to do this. So I want to introduce my panel. Next to me, I have Mr. David Kimani.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. Next to him, I have Mr. John Willis. Joroge.
Asante.
Karibu sana. And next we have Henry Maniki. Hi. Karibu sana. Henry, this is not your first time here.
Yes, I've been here before.
Karibu sana, but not this year.
Not this year, no.
Karibu. Really, it's nice to see you and for you too, David.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
So we're talking about what makes a man, but before I get to a description of what makes a man, either it's physical value or it's whatever you own, maybe let's put a distinction between man and male. And I remember we had a conversation last evening, and you were saying there's a difference between man and male. Maybe you do want to do that for us? That just setting the description as well.
Okay. Male, when you're born, and the midwife picks you up and incidentally looks, says, it's a boy, it's male. But being a man is much more than just being beyond the boy. Being a man has it's a calling, it's a responsibility. And I say we have too many grown males, but very few men.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And we'll talk about more about that. But that's where I come from, because I have seen many people who are grown up above 18 biceps. Because that's two boys, and yet there are many others who have got to that place, but are men. And one of the characteristics of being a man, and we'll talk about maybe the definition of that, maybe quickly, because being a man comes with responsibility, certain things. A man takes initiative. Yes. Yeah. A man lives responsibly. Okay. Basically meaning if you have decisions to make, either lack of or taking a decision, not taking a decision, has a consequence in life. And if you look at the things we do as men, that defines us a lot. He's a leader. He has to lead and lead sacrificially. We are all born leaders initially as male. If you don't take responsibility, you end up being maybe a boy. A boy. Yeah.
So it's possible to be a boy, a grown boy.
You can be a grown boy.
Okay.
You can be a grown boy.
Okay.
You're supposed to love and love faithfully. Love one wife and have other men you walk with who you love. He's one of the guys I really love. And I hope it doesn't sound odd saying that.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I think we're going to come to that.
Yeah, and why is because we have brothers. He's my brother.
Yes.
And so I know he will fight for me and I'll fight for him.
Okay.
And the last one is that we are supposed to leave a legacy. We just don't come, breathe, go to school, breathe, get married, get children, get sick, and die. Yeah, there must be something bigger we live for. Okay. And so just in those five, that's what defines who a man should be. And most of the times you find that it's lacking. And how does it happen? Most of the times it's called out. And a boy is called out to be a man by another man. Most of the times should be his father. And I'll open up a Pandora's box because that doesn't happen to many of us.
I really am glad you are. So a man is supposed to be called out by his father.
By his father.
Okay.
Or a father figure. Okay. But now you're a man. And you'll find that most of the time, if that never happened, they keep looking for that thing. You keep looking for that being, am I man enough? Am I good enough? Do I be? And so the things that playing around, and if you look around the things that the boys are trying to do, is actually trying to be a man. They're trying to be a man, and they're trying to do these things. I'll be a man because my chronometer makes you think I'm all that, or my bank statement, or my biceps make me look like that. But if the moment a man looks at another man and says, look, you're a man, something that happens there. Okay. There's something that happens. Look, I don't know if you have a son, or you get a son.
When I get a son, I have a nephew. I have nephews.
Yeah. They have nephews. If you look at them and their fathers, and their father says, my boy, my son, there's a total difference between saying Mark or whatever it is. That's what makes a man. It's not it's not the things we do in December, the ceremonies and all those things. They can be done and done in the right way that the men are called out, then they become men. But if it's just done as a ceremony, we come and eat goat and they're not spoken into, they're not called out, they'll still be boys.
They'll still be boys.
I don't know.
Well, it's...
Yes.
I'm looking at, and you've said something very important, David. There's the place of, first of all, appreciating the fact that you actually can love your brother and say it outright without feeling odd. And you even said it, I hope it's not odd, because it's automatic when when a man tells his fellow man, I love you in public, it looks very odd. Isn't that what is supposed to happen? I mean, is there a problem when a man loves his fellow man?
No, I think it is a result of culture and different cultures and the way they define masculinity. And so, like now, when you go and tell a father, I love you, or even your dad telling you as a man, I love you, the first thought is, hey, you're going soon. Amma, what is happening?
Like, yeah, what's the special occasion?
Yeah, are you sick? What is it? But But it's okay to love someone. And one of the things I realized is that, because in the journey of mentoring boys and all that, is that boys are deprived that statement, that I love you. And how they are deprived, it's because as men, we think by just maybe paying school fees, buying him a pair of shoes or something like that defines how we love them.
The material things.
Yes, but a boy wants to hear a father saying, I love you. And when you don't do that, the deficiency that a son has, he will go out there looking for someone to claim him. Because in the process of being claimed by a father, he has to hear that statement, I love you. And recently I was training a group of men, about 50, and I asked, how many of us in this room, you have been told by your dad, I love you?
Yeah.
He said, no. Who? My father telling me he loves me. No, men don't do such things. But it is very, very important for fathers to do so.
And where is the problem? Where did that come from?
Again, it is culture. It is culture and definitions of masculinity. Because what we say is that mwanaume ni kukaa ngumu.
Kukaa ngumu.
And kukaa ngumu, you deprive him everything.
Yeah.
You deprive him of love, you deprive him of presence, you deprive him of intentional mentorship. Because you realize that boys and fathers, the relationship they have is more correctional, not proactive affirmation. Yeah, and that's where the problem is.
Interesting.
Let me flip that a bit on love. Think about it. Jesus at the age of 30, and just before he went onto the cross, his father spoke and said, this is my son, whom I love. A 30-year-old man. He knew he was the son of God. Because he was also fully man. He needed to hear that affirmation. And we think that men don't hear that. And I think we are where we are at as a people, as a nation, because many men have not had that. And so they look for that love in other things. And it's amazing now, as he says, that I see that in my son and some of the young men you're working with, and you actually say that it's not because it's sexual. No, it's just saying, look, you belong to me, and because each of us wants to know we belong to someone. This is my son. I belong to someone. I'm accepted. Whom I love. I'm appreciated. And so, and then I'm well pleased with you. Many men haven't gotten that. I'm proud of you. And so we look for those things to be told by other men, I'm proud of you, because by saying, you have good shoes, and that feels nice. But it's not the shoes, it's the shoes you're talking about, not me. I like your hair, I like your muscles. But it's those things I'm talking about, not me. And so we look for those things, other things, because we never had it from the father figures or the fathers that we had. And at times, most of the times, we haven't had it from God. And we don't even think he can say that, because the men who are supposed to say that didn't give it. And it's crazy the numbers he's talking about. Every time I ask that question, how many of us have been told by dads, your father, I love you? Less than 10%. How many have you told your father, I love you? It's almost zero. And guys, they say, ataniuliza man komgonjwa.
I know, unakufa. Okay, so there's actually, it stems from the culture, as you said, what we have grown up seeing and doing. Henry, for you, you're a psychologist, and I think that's where I want to start. There's, of course, the aspect of single motherhood, and I think David brought it out, that the man being affirmed and called out by a father is what is important. But we have a generation growing that is fatherless. And I mean this, we have so many children who are brought up by single mothers. What is the effect of that?
Okay, let me just pick up the conversation from where it was at and then go into that. And I think what you're describing, because please remember, love is an English word. It's a word in the English language. And there are many languages and many cultures. So what you're actually speaking to is, what is the language of manhood? What do men understand? And in our generation, in our day, in our time, when English is very pervasive, then the word love tends to carry that. But what do men understand? The language of manhood is respect. It's acceptance. It's belonging. So what a man needs, right from inception all the way to when they take their last breath, is that sense of knowing that they belong, they are accepted, they are respected. So, and the person who ushers us into manhood, who calls it out, is our father, is the father figure in our lives. And that came out very strongly. So these are the people who actually will call out a man and say, you belong to me. Because the word father means source, or from whence ones came from. Yeah. So if you're disconnected from that, you're actually lost. I've counseled a lot with people in their teenage phase when people are looking at their identity and who they are as persons. And the biggest crisis is the fatherhood crisis. Yeah. If the father is absent, that's when the quest for the father is really intense. Because they're looking for identity. Where did I come from? Who's my source? How can I connect with that? So that's the biggest question that you find. So that's the language of manhood. And as men grow and progress, then they want that. They want to know that I belong.
Okay.
I was called out. I have a father. And I can also then turn and call out other men.
Other men, okay.
And I belong to a company. I belong to a group. I belong to a company of men.
Yeah.
So all that is very critical to a man. Now, if you take that away from the equation, and right from the developmental stage, then you deprive a very core essence of one's being. And this is both for male and female, although today we are focusing on the boy child.
Yeah.
You take away a very core essence of a person's being. So what we have today, and you will see it play out, it was intense in the 80s and the 90s coming to the early 2000s, was what identity the men took. If you looked at what were statements of fashion and trends, bandanas were huge.
Yes.
Studs and earrings were big. Plaiting hair became very funky. Makeup and all of that, and being in touch with emotions became a very huge thing among men. But look at that critically. Whose attributes are these? Bandanas are really scarves.
They're actually women's scarves.
That are really modified to look funky. But they are scarves. You know, like what women tie around their
Yeah.
Studs are earrings. So we make them funky, they're made of diamonds, they spot, and they're okay.
Yes.
Plaiting hair was a very feminine trait. So all this was actually a manifestation of a boy child who was showing who modeled to me. Okay? So they were really aping their mothers.
Because that's what they knew.
But putting it in fashion and vogue and very attractive appearance and making it very fashionable. But the essence is we are actually aping the people who brought us up, who called us out. And these were the mothers. Why? Because largely the black American father was absent. Now, today we just ape this and copy this because that's what we do as a people. Yeah. So when you take that out, then you have a person who is lost, and the boy will become a grown male. It doesn't mean that they are a man. But biologically they are mature. So they will sire children after themselves. Okay?
They will grow their biceps.
Yes, and scripture brings out a very sad concept because it asks, how can the blind lead the blind? If manhood was not called forth in an individual, and a whole generation grows up, how then can that generation raise men after itself? How can that situation be rescued? Yeah? So it becomes a very deep conversation. Now, when these men grow up, they will get into marriage, they will get into fatherhood, but they don't know how to fit into these roles. And that came out because part of manhood is the roles that you fulfill. So if you are not called forth, if it was not modeled, manhood is caught.
Wow.
We don't read about it in books. Yeah? And that's why it's very frustrating for women who are mothers to boy child, who try to do everything right. They will read the books, how do I parent a boy, and they'll try and speak it to them. But there's just something about manhood calling forth manhood.
Okay, so it has to be called out by the male figure himself.
And not just calling it out, but walking the mile with, so that manhood is caught. If you look at Christ called his disciples, and he walked with them day and night for 3.5 years.
Yes.
And then he said on the cross, it is finished.
It is finished.
I have passed it on. Because you're not just passing on words. He was modeling and walking with them. So it is said if he was to do a discipleship program of 2 hours a week, it would take him about 65 years to achieve the same impact he had when he walked with the disciples for the period he did. So manhood is like that. It is caught. It is transferred. And that's why fatherhood becomes very essential in a boy's development.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at what you've said, the blind leading the blind. And we have an instance or maybe a situation where men who've been brought up by single men, a lot of them tend to force it, almost divert into revenge. And we have men who are fathering children but not taking responsibility. I don't know what you guys have to say about that.
Go first.
Yeah, I think you see, going back to the expression and definition, as he talked about love and all that, sometimes as a result of that, men look for love through sex.
Okay.
And what happens is that they don't want to take responsibility. It's just for the moment. And as a result of that, you realize that, yes, they will have children, and these children will grow up without a father, and it becomes a cycle. Okay. Because this child who grows up without a father, knowing very well that boys become men in the presence of other men, this child is not able to pick some of the values and intentionality of becoming a man. And having said that, I would say that man is a position, okay, and a responsibility. And a man is supposed to help anyone in the society know their potential and the ability they have. And that is why when you look at the stages of masculinity, one is born a boy, a young man, a husband, a father, an elder. An elder solves the problems that he didn't create. And a father gives life expecting nothing in return. And every culture demonstrates it that way. And so as a result of that, you realize that if all these stages are not taken care of, a son will look for love or express love in ways that are not good. And that is why you find boys in gangs. Because there is this one guy who is calling him out and claiming him. And so his allegiance is to this one man. So boys who are in gangs, they are not vicious. They are victims of what is happening in our society.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the conversation. We have a phone number. The phone number is on the screen. Please give us a call, contribute on to the conversation. We're going to pick up your call and hear what you have to say if you have a question or a comment. But I want to pick up from what John said. We had an instance this past week when somebody was sharing and saying their son actually turned out to be gay because he did not receive the love at home. And so because his fellow boyfriend was giving him the love, he actually associated that with care. And it became a romantic relationship because he found love elsewhere. I don't know what you have to say before I ask my next question.
I have seen it. It's not surprising. And not once and not twice. And the first time it was one of those things that got me thinking. And I understood as I spoke with this young man that I was saying, look, I've never had this. This guy is there for me. He cares for me. He calls me out. He says, hey, look, you're cool. And all those things. The things that father should have done, this guy does it. And so, and because he was a teenager, this guy says, no, I mean, the only way, he was asking, how do I give back? And so this guy, this is what I want. And he didn't know, and he thought, if I give myself, I'll get more of this, which he was. But he was messed up. And unfortunately, when we are quick to judge people, and these days people shut up before you know what's behind. You
can say that again.
I know 3 or 4 I'm actually working with, and that's where it started. That's where it started, because someone ever played their part. So there's always something that will come and take that position. And so this girl comes and takes a position. You're a cool guy, and all those things. And it's happening a lot, much more now than ever before. Actually, let me throw a small spanner. I'm seeing that now it's happening even with especially boys from single moms. I'm not saying single moms are doing a bad job. They're doing an amazing job. But if the mother is not able to give the nurturing and the caring inside they're supposed to give,
they'll find it somewhere else.
They find it someone else. And so they will pick it up. If it's not from another dude, and even the guys will go and bash and say this, they are Bentens and stuff like that. Or even guys I thought were smooth. I discovered they're actually looking for mother love. And so here we are bashing men, but not understanding they are victims of things they were not part of. And so we have, as a society, need to step up our bit. But that bit you said about, I'm seeing that much more often.
It's happening, and we're quickly, like you said, we're very quick to judge. We're very quick to call out the negative and the evil thing that we're seeing, but without even looking for where did this begin?
The source,
Where did this begin? And Henry, for you, the question is, there's a lot of, I've had, and I think it really pisses me off, but I have to sit back and find out what is the reason. We have men who are taking advantage of very little children. I mean, over the news, you would hear a man raped a 4-year-old, a man raped, his own child, you know. And even on the flip side, a man raped a 104-year-old woman, and you're wondering, what is wrong? What is wrong?
That's very disgusting what you're describing. But what is common across all those crimes is those are crimes that want to demonstrate dominance and control. And that I can take control. I can dominate you, I can subdue you, and I can do what I want. And it goes back to brute force. And when a man is pushed to the wall and they want to push back, they will find an outlet.
Oh, yeah.
Something that they will exert their physical strength on and just show I can dominate and I can control and I can subdue. And so that's why they will go for the weaker. You will not hear them going for
that's true.
Stronger.
They'll go for those who cannot defend themselves.
They'll go for very young children, very old women. They'll go for women more than they will go for men or other men. They that's why they go for other men. But they will always look for somebody who is weaker. Because what they want to do is exert and control and dominate. That's what they are looking for. So that's misdirected manhood.
And where is this coming from?
Now,
what exactly is it? Is
if you
it
go
pressure that is suppressed? What exactly is this?
It's more complex than that.
Okay.
Because a short response is the playing field has changed. If you look through history, you'll find that it's brute force that brought you to the alpha status.
Yeah.
Literally, it's you fought your way, and whoever won then dominated the stage. So brute force and brawn always carried the day and has always carried the day for the man. But now you come into a season and a time where that's not the ball game anymore. The field has completely changed.
It's changed.
Yeah. So now it's brains and it's wit.
True.
Yeah. And it's your ability to create wealth. It's intelligence. Now those parameters are very different from I am strong, I can lift, I can build, I can push. So the boy child is finding himself in a very interesting space. Because he's got muscle, he's got physical strength, but he's gaining no ground on that basis. In fact, the girl child who understood this shift and who in the 80s the world was very deliberate about emphasizing upon and empowering and equipping. And now she's grown and today she's an empowered girl. Yeah. Now that's a very strange phenomenon because the man has through time known a woman who is beholden to him.
Yeah.
He's the one who goes, he's the one who fights the battles, he's the one who brings in the bread, and the lady just stays home and is a homemaker. But now she's out there, toughing it out, and excelling in many ways. And not to her fault, it's just that the boy child and the man did not read the changing times.
Actually.
So now we find ourselves, so we now find ourselves in a time where you have fully grown men who can't fit into this narrative. They can't fit into this system. So what do they do with all this strength? Yet they can't go. So you find them sitting in the estates on stones.
With gangs like you
whole
say.
day.
Yeah.
What do you think they are cooking in those mines? They go home and they can't bring bread to the table, so they're getting bashed at home. They're getting bashed in society. Advertising and all of that for a season has really been man bashing. So there's a lot of push towards a man, and now it's even becoming the butt of many jokes.
It's true.
So how do you push back? How
So
do
you look for a weaker
how do you
weaker
respond
thing.
to this?
Yeah.
To show that no, I'm still here.
I'm still in
I'm still
control.
present. I will make you talk about me.
Wow.
You know.
Okay.
So I will do an act that will demonstrate that I still have strength.
I
can still dominate.
Okay.
So that's one risk factor. The other thing that is happening is what you were talking about earlier. Is then this man starts asking, where do I get respect? How do I belong somewhere? So the gangs will come and say, you can belong, but you have to take this gun and you have to kill somebody for you to belong. And then they do it. And somebody will say, no, you have to turn and give me your backside for you to belong. They will do it. You know? Another one will be told, you have to go and you have to do crime, you have to do drugs, you have to do alcohol. that's how you belong.
Looking for affirmation as
Yes.
well. Okay.
And if they don't find it in that channel, then they look for an escape.
Okay.
And the escape becomes drugs, and they just live in a stupor. I work with men in prison a lot.
Okay.
And
We
most of them are just stuck in drugs.
Yeah.
Because they wanted an escape. They can't face reality.
Okay.
Men won't come home in the evening because they can't face the family. They can't face the wife, they can't face the children and engage. So
Okay. So it's a way of releasing the energy and also to show that I can still dominate. We have a call online. We have Elizabeth from Rongai. Hello, Elizabeth.
I'm fine, Grace.
Thank you so much for calling. Do you have a comment or a question?
I want to comment as a teacher.
Okay.
I teach these senior classes in a primary.
Uh-huh.
And I want to tell the panel, the problem is real.
We can't hear you. Could you please add your volume?
I'm saying
Yes.
the problem is real.
The problem is real.
Yes, because
Mm-hmm.
our boys, even in class, they are not the boys that we were teaching those many years. Actually, I've taught for about 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys we were teaching in those early years, they are not the ones that we have in class. The boys they look always timid. They are intimidated by boys. Actually, do you know, even in class 8, you can see girls are roughing up boys. They in fact, boys do not talk in class. And because I've tried to do a kind of a research, the problem is with the fathers.
The father. Okay.
As much as we want to say that many boys are being brought up by single mothers, those many that have their fathers, they have absentee fathers. So the boy does not have a model to look upon. So I want to say this. Please, let somebody talk to men. Let them come back to their homes early. Let them talk to their boys. Because we are living it. And, you know, I was actually asking my guys, you know, when we are doing some life skill in class. Guys, would you want anybody in this class to marry you when they are grown up? And they say, no, teacher, I don't want to be married by this, and they do not know how to even talk.
Oh.
I tell them, you guys, please.
Yeah.
These are our sons, and they are the ones who will become your husbands. So respect them. Not keep pushing boys from one corner to the other. I'm telling you, things are not good.
Okay.
Tunaweza tu tukakaa na tufundike masikio na macho, lakini nawahakikishia we are losing our boys. So in another few years we shall not have men. We shall just have shells that are working, they are consumed, their self-esteem is zero. So I'm a mother of a boy, and I do not have a girl. And I even wonder how he's a grown-up man now. I'm wondering, is he going to get the girls that I can see in class?
Okay.
Surely, something must be done. You men who are seated there, and you champion the cause, please, for our chance. Things are not good at all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I think your concern is very clear. The absence of men in their homes. We have another caller before we respond.
Hello.
Okay, hello. I think did we lose that caller?
Hello, Dennis.
Hello.
Hi, how are you, Dennis?
I'm fine, thank you.
How is Embu?
Embu is very fine.
Kunanyesha ama mvua iko bado?
Hata nataka kufika church.
Yes.
Niombe tu mvua.
Hiyo ni poa. Today you're talking about a man. What do you think makes a man?
Okay, I think me. What makes a man is something very broad.
Yes.
But the first thing is a bit to care.
Okay.
And provide. Because no matter if a man has so much money, but can he build confidence in him from his family?
Okay.
The girlfriend.
Yes, Dennis?
And the people around him, how do they respect him? And so respect is not a matter of, you don't get it.
Okay.
It's how you carry yourself. That's what makes a man.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Asante sana. Any song you would like us to play for you?
Must it be gospel?
Yeah, of
Yes.
course it has to be gospel.
Oh, gospel.
Utatuitia, utatuandikia. Just tweet hapo hivyo tutaiona. Okay, Dennis?
Okay, wait.
Salimia pastor, juu naona unaenda kanisani.
Okay, sawa.
Haya, sawa.
Thank you, Dennis. And that's Dennis and Rosemary. And their concern is really clear. And I think, Henry, you had something to say briefly before we continue.
She mentioned the school context.
Yes.
And one sad observation you will make. When a child is born, a boy, and declared a boy, that scenario is mostly surrounded by women. Mostly. It's in our context, it's taboo for men to be in that space. I was present for the birth of both my children. But it's taboo for men to be in that space.
Yeah.
Then they come home, and they're in the primary care of the mother and the nanny. The father just basically says, I don't have the appendages to be of assistance. I'll just basically be at large. And the work environment gives him maybe 2 weeks to paternity break and then come back to work, you know. So he basically just keeps off that season. Then they come to, and they navigate that season, and the primary caregivers, the people who are present are women.
Yeah.
They come to church and Sunday school. The teachers are mostly
Women.
ladies in those early stages. They go to preschool and play school and kindergarten and that season and phase. Mostly women are the ones who are there. They come to lower primary and that early stage education, you rarely will find male teachers there. The first male teacher they will come across most likely will be a math or science teacher, somewhere in class 5 or class 6.
Oh, yeah.
That's the earliest they will start seeing a man figure in their life. So this is about class 6, class 7. And now they're ready to be initiated. Now, some community of men will appear from somewhere, and they will start now telling them, this is how you become a man. But they've been absent in this very formative stage.
Yeah.
She talked about even talking and expressing themselves. If you listen to 2 children play, you listen to a girl play, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old, and a boy play, listen to the sounds they are making. The girl is very coherent. Don't worry, I'll give you some food, you'll feel better. Let me take care of you. That's if you listen to a girl play, that's what you'll hear. Listen to a boy play. You hear incoherent sounds. So
It's what they know.
These two are supposed to communicate later in life and
It's a
agree.
mess.
Yeah. Yet one has a very clear head start in how they articulate and communicate, and another is set back. So unless we intervene very deliberately for the boy child, then they grow with this disadvantage. They have strengths and advantages in other spaces, but there are some finer skills that then need to be refined. And the school system helps with that. But men are predominantly absent in that season. And therefore you have the scenario where you have very weak men coming out of the system. So that's why we find ourselves.
Let me pick something from that.
Okay.
And I think we spoke a bit earlier that most of the time you find that because the father figures not be present, one of the reactions by the boys is aggression, anger and all that.
Oh, yeah.
There's something else which I'm seeing much more, which is I think what she was expressing, passivity. That there are boys, younger boys, you see this in maybe 20s now, most of the 20s are going down, men who will do nothing, who don't make a decision, and because there was no one there to help them to understand that I have a responsibility. And so even when the wife wants to do something, they will keep quiet. And at times either they're too angry to do something, they think they do something, or they're just totally incapacitated. And so when I'm hearing that, and you see that a lot, you know, you hear that amongst the young girls, they're like, I like this guy, but he can't approach me. So that thing of girls asking a guy for a date, which never used to happen in our days, is happening much more. How on earth? But why? Because if they're aggressive, they go to the opposite side, passivity. And so it's something that fathers need to do, and be present. Present, not buying presents, but being present. Even if at times you don't even have the money for school fees and stuff, and you explain to your kids, they do understand. But if you are present and you are there every day, they see you, and present not just physically, also emotionally. That they can come and say something, you can engage. How was your day? How is everything? Which team do you support? Even if the guy doesn't like football, you discover that boy find conversation. That boy has a much better, becomes a much better man. Because I have seen guys who their dads provided everything, and they hate their dads, and just like, I wanted my dad home. I didn't want those things. I didn't want these things. I just want my dad. And so I'm not much, I want things to tell men, be present, even if you don't have the presence, imagine the children do understand, but that's one of the biggest things.
And it's quite interesting because passivity is not natural, it is nurtured. And as the scripture, God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. It's actually the highest calling of a man, whereby I can choose not to leave you, but I have forsaken you. And quite a number of young children today, they are forsaken by their fathers as a result of the demands that are there in the society. Others, it's because fathers don't even know what to do with their children. And what you realize is that a man is at home, but he doesn't even know his role. He's even scared because no one told them about some of these things. And we laugh about it with my Baba, because I tell him, there's some things you didn't tell me before I got married, because he has known me for some time. And he told me, some of the things I can't tell you, because you have to experience, then when you come, they give you meaning.
Wow.
And so it is very, very important for us to be intentional so that this young boy can know that being proactive is important in life than being passive.
There's something I learned this week, actually yesterday, about retroflexion. And this is one of the defense mechanisms that is used a lot by men, where you're told, don't cry. So because you can't cry, you can't show your emotions, you suck it in and you go and express it elsewhere. And we find a lot of men doing this by drinking. They go into all these things that you guys go to, I don't know. Some people express their energy with, you know, sexually they get all these platforms and they have side chicks and all that. And it's something that starts from somewhere. And we are very quick to judge and say, you can't keep your pants closed, you can't keep this and this and this. But there's really something wrong. So maybe because you guys have gone through a program, Man Enough, I'm sure Andrew has gone through. It's a platform that men have been given. And I can even hear you say out loud, I love you, bro, you know, which is not there. It has not been there. It's only girls who call each other babe and sweetheart and hand. You guys don't have those codes, do you? Because once I hear you, I'll be like, this is freaky, you know? But maybe what would you say, final words, 1 minute, I know we have to go, 1 minute about finding that person who you can actually talk to. And it's that it's actually okay to find help and to speak to someone in one second.
In 1 second. Find brothers to walk with. Even Jesus at his hardest point in time had 3 men he was with. David at his hardest point in time, 3 men wanted to commit suicide for him to go and get water. Find men who you can trust. Trust is big for us. And so my biggest prayer, one thing is find guys you can trust, who you can be open with, who can be real with, who you can cry with. It stays there and dies there. And even the men who come, can we protect them? So that if he says something or shares something very deep, very private, it dies with me, irrespective of how I feel, even what I want to do. It stays there. Trust and privacy.
All right.
Yeah, I would say that masculinity and femininity, we are all equal in the eyes of God, but we have different functionalities. And the best thing a man can do is to ensure that you call out the best in people and ensuring that you create room for women to prosper.
Wow, creating room for women to prosper. I think that's the most fun thing you've said today. Women, you've been put in the equation, so we are happy. We're not going to boycott. Henry, for you, final word?
I think one, God. Because in a fallen, broken world, God is still present and calling us out and saying, I am here, and reaching out. So wherever you are as a man who is maybe in a fallen or broken state, turn to God, cry to God, he will hear you. Number 2, find an elder, who will speak wisdom to your life. Number 3, find a role model. Somebody who is modeling manhood in a way that you aspire to be and fit. So find that. Then find a company or find a friend, somebody who will stand with you through thick and thin. So find that. But also be a mentor. Identify 1 or 2 who are behind you and call them out and work with them and commit to them. That's what I'd say.
Great, thank you so much. We don't have so much time, but I wish we had more. I feel like we still haven't gone deeper. Maybe we should have a part 2. But there you have it. What makes a man? What makes a man is really not the biceps, it's not the things that he owns. And one thing that stands out is that we don't need presence, we need presence. Did I put it right? Yeah, for the men, they don't need presence. You don't become a father by bringing gifts. You become a father by being there and working with your man. And that men are called out. They're not just, they don't learn from a book. They don't read out how to be a man. They're actually called out, and it's a process. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much.